I'm Dr. Dan, and today we're going to go over some of the questions that you guys asked, and I'll do my best to answer them for you. Tony B asks, which fast food restaurant is the healthiest? I love this question because it shows me that you're starting to think about what you're eating and why. The best thing to do is start to look at some of the nutritional things that are posted with any fast food restaurant. To me, I like Chipotle. They've got some of the best ingredients, I think, but you can still overload it. So if you go there and get a burrito and just load that thing up, you're still looking at a lot of sodium and a lot of fat, depending on what you're putting in it. But it's still going to be probably the healthiest choice. You can also look at places like Panera or Subway, but again, those are going to be filled with sodium in the meats, and it's just going to be processed deli meats as well. But they are going to have some of the healthier choices. Bud W asks, can I still get my DOT card if I'm using a hearing aid? And the answer is yes, you can. You just need to be able to hear a forced whisper better than 5 feet in your better ear, regardless of if you have a hearing aid or not. If you do have a hearing aid, you will have to have a spare set of batteries though with you at all times when you're driving. Sarah W asks, what are you checking for when you're giving a DOT physical? For the most part, we're going through a full health questionnaire. We're going to be checking your vision, hearing, your blood pressure, height and weight, that kind of thing, and going through your medical history. And then there's a urinalysis test for blood protein and sugar as well. Pretty simple. Wayne B asks, is homemade soda healthy or unhealthy? Well, it's still unhealthy because to make it, you have to use a lot of sugar or syrup, although it's going to be better than the high fructose corn syrup, but not by much. I think one of the better options for a carbonated drink, to be honest, is just going to be a carbonated water. And if you want to put some flavoring in it, that's probably going to be your best choice. Even if you make something like a Kool-Aid, you're still adding a ton of sugar to it, so you have to be careful with what you're adding to it and not just how it's made by a company somewhere else. Tim O asks, what do you think is the biggest health risk of being a truck driver and how would you avoid it? Now, I see a lot of truck drivers and a lot of new truck drivers that come back for a recertification, and the biggest change is usually the weight gain. And the reason why that's a bad thing is because it affects your blood pressure, it increases your risk of heart disease and also diabetes. The easiest way to avoid that, though, is going to be diet and exercise. It's going to be a little bit harder to do some of the things when you're on the road, but if you can pay attention to what you're eating and try to get as much exercise as possible, you're going to reduce the amount of weight you'll gain while driving. Omar M asks, what dieting advice do you have for truckers? Well, for the most part, I'm going to recommend staying away from high fat and high salty foods, along with pop and a lot of things that have high fructose corn syrup in them. If you have any specific questions on that, though, I'm going to recommend looking at the other videos that we did on dieting. Stacy D asks, if I'm having trouble sleeping while on the road, what can I do? This is kind of a tricky question because a lot of it's going to depend on what kind of sleeper you are and how hard it is to fall asleep. But one of the main things that will affect sleep is going to be if you had enough fresh air exercise. And unfortunately, that's going to be really hard when you're driving, especially long haul, because you want to get as far as possible with as little breaks. Trying to eat healthy is going to be one of your best things to do. Even if you can get out of the truck and walk farther, say you park farther away from the truck stop or get to the bathroom, you have to walk farther on purpose. At least it gives you just a little bit more exercise, a little bit more fresh air. Sleeping in the cab can be difficult. Now the environment's going to play a huge role there, so if you can shut out any of the light that's coming in, wear earplugs to try to reduce the noise, park farther away so you don't hear doors slamming or other engine noise from other trucks. It depends on what is influencing the sleep and what's causing you to stay awake. What you want to avoid, though, is sleeping pills, because that can be a dangerous mixture when you're driving. It can almost be more dangerous than driving while intoxicated. One possibility is that you might have sleep apnea. Now, that's a concern, especially if you're a little bit overweight as well. And what happens is you're not sleeping properly overnight. You're just not getting a nice deep sleep so that you're constantly tired during the day. And that's something you need to look into medically. So thank you for your questions, and we'll see you again in the next video.